Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
The legacy work we do with our clients is around vision, mission, values, what you want to be remembered for. If you don't know what your purpose is, you don't have your compass in the right direction and you can't follow your personal North Star. And that's why one of our tools is called the Life and Business Compass, so that we know what your life priorities are and how aligned living to those skills looks.
I want to invite you into the Business Network, my free school community for entrepreneurs and business owners who want to grow their network and scale their business. Inside, you'll get step-by-step lessons, monthly workshops, feedback, scripts, resources, bonuses, and a community of like-minded people who believe in helping each other win. Join us today at school.com, the Business Network, or click the link in the description and click Join Group. I'll see you inside.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and do you know what doing good is? I know you're shaking your head, doing good, serving hard, but I still talk to a lot of people. I talked to a lady yesterday, wasn't doing enough and was struggling. Well, my guest today is the expert at inspiration and doing good, and we're going to talk more about that. And speaking of inspiration, here's our gratitude for today. You're awesome. Always remember that. Awesome is not something that you have to be Maya Angelou, Mother Teresa. You could be me, my guest. Just be awesome at what you're awesome at, and the world will love you. So let's bring our guest on today. Holly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me here. Oh my goodness, Steve, I love the awesome comment. One of the things that I have my clients do is create a jar of awesome, and they make it sparkly or fun or playful, and they have it in a space they see constantly. And we have them add little Post-its of moments of awesome so that when they have really bad days, they can pour the jar of awesome out and see how amazing they are.
What's the benefits of that?
Well, as a business owner, you can sometimes feel like a prospect ghosted you, or you get a negative review because you're being seen and heard. And it's easy to go into that imposter syndrome or Debbie Downer moment. So if you have the jar of awesome, it's reminders of gratitude, things that people are singing your praises in, and reminders of how amazing you are at what you do.
And that's the cool thing about awesome. It's not a scoreboard. It's you're awesome, my awesome, you audience is awesome, and that's really all it is. And it's funny you're mentioning awesome. I think we're really aligned. I watched a video from Darren Hardy, Big Success Magazine, and he talked about Maya Angelou, wakes up every morning and thinks she's not doing enough. Maya Angelou, who's done, affected millions of people, she has imposter syndrome. So it's amazing that you say that, because we all have it. It's a human embedded in us, is how we handle that. That's important. Inspiration is a big part of your book, your podcast, which you get to. Why that word and why that feeling?
Yeah, so since childhood, and especially the more I do this work with our clients who are change makers, and they're creating change in the world that's world for good and creating a ripple effect, I have noticed more and more that people need occasionally to borrow inspiration and borrow belief with their superpower, and they need permission to step into their zone of genius. And so for me, it's about how do we fuel inspiration for others and create a ripple effect or a positive light in the world through helping more people turn their light on for what they are here on this planet to do. And they do so beautifully and so well. And when you can fuel your own internal inspiration, it's a ripple effect. You can't not feel somebody who's inspired, who's doing good things, who's smiled, who's lit up, who has energy. they have a vibration and a vibe that's magnetic. So the more we can get people turned on to that, the better.
Love the magnetic energy. They work together and they repel each other too. You can have that
Yes.
magnet, and that's, change makers and doing good. We have to be careful with that. So that leads to a great question. That was me asking in the beginning, but I'm asked now. To this day, Holly, what is the biggest impact you've made?
Ooh, there's so many, but
Pick one. Yeah, I figured it was.
well, I would say, launching my book is something that has been on my heart since I was a little girl. And I had a lot of chronic pain, and I still have a lot of chronic pain, but it's not the focal point anymore. And I learned, it took years to learn how to manage my chronic pain and still stay a light and stay focused on the good and stay in gratitude. So I wrote my book, Inspiration, Contagion, Health Secrets for Raving Success. And well, you might say, oh, well, that's a small thing, right? Just launching a book. The reason I feel like that has the best and biggest impact is I have so many people who have gifted that book to people who in their family were just diagnosed with cancer. And they say, Holly, you helped our entire family get through this incredibly traumatic, incredibly challenging time. Or people who have gifted it to friends because they have imposter syndrome, because we talk about self-talk and how we can change that through affirmation work and refocusing what we are seeing and hearing inside between our ears. And so when people tell me and give a positive review or send me a text or send a selfie with the book and how it's profoundly changed their life, my goal for that book was just to change one or two people's lives, and it's impacted hundreds of people. And as you know, like we don't hear all the people we've impacted. So the fact that I've heard from hundreds, I know it's had a bigger ripple effect. And like to me, that is just really powerful because it is helping heal the world, which is part of our mission.
What a perfect impact to pick. Because I say books are powerful because somebody's got your book on their coffee table, their nightstand, or their bookshelf. They have access to you 24/7, especially with chronic pain or whatever. They can grab it, read a chapter, and you've made that impact. So thank you for doing that and impacting so many. And you're going to be impacting so many more. With your book, what am I going to learn that's going to change my life one way or the other?
So the book isn't just about health. It's about how we navigate challenge and how we can upgrade our internal system within our brain, right? So it talks about sleeping better to be able to process things and be at your best peak form so that you have your best peak performance as a visionary, as a leader, as a business owner, as a change maker. You're going to learn how to deal with the imposter syndrome that we all face, whether we're Maya Angelou, Oprah Winfrey, or Doug next door. You're going to learn how to navigate challenge and chronic pain because as we age, we do have pain, we do have injuries, we do have challenges. And there are things in the book that allow us to not spiral as quickly. So whether we're facing a challenge during economic hard times or somebody in our family being diagnosed with cancer or a divorce, we have better skills and strategies for navigating pain, navigating our mental landscape, and empowering ourselves to show up physically as the best version of ourselves so that mentally, emotionally, and spiritually we can show up in peak form and then better peak performance so that we can be that light in the world and we can step into our superpower. That's why we gift our book to all of our clients because there's so many basic foundational things that visionaries and leaders need to do to give themselves so that they can then give to others.
Challenges are probably harder, more debilitating than cancer, chronic pain. There's a medicine or whatever, a surgery. Sometimes challenges, there's not a medicine or surgery. It's the old noggin. And I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and purpose is missing. How important is purpose if I want to be a change maker?
Oh my goodness. So we have three pillars of how we work with clients: marketing, sales, and legacy. And so legacy is part of purpose, right? So the legacy work we do with our clients is around vision, mission, values, what you want to be remembered for. If you don't know what your purpose is, you don't have your compass in the right direction and you can't follow your personal North Star. And that's why one of our tools is called the Life and Business Compass, so that we know what your life priorities are and how aligned living to those skills looks. And then, of course, what is your long-term motivating factor? The thing that gets you out of bed, even on your worst days. You're just like, oh my goodness, I'm in pain. I have this big challenge. The world's falling apart. I don't have the energy. But you have that northern star, that purpose, that thing that you want to create 10, 20, 30 years from now. The thing you want your children, your grandchildren, future generations to remember you for, because only you can build that thing on this planet. So, yes, your purpose is super crucial because if you don't know the change you want to create in the world, you can't be a change maker. Or if you are, you're actually going after somebody else's agenda, which leads to burnout, leads to cancer, leads to pain, leads to dismay and anger and all the terrible things we don't want to have for you.
Ultimately, death. Let's be
Yeah.
blunt here. Ultimately, I mean, that's a journey we're all going on. And waking up with a struggle, I think everybody listening, and I think you'll agree with me, we've all dealt with that. Some more than others. But I love that you have the answer there, especially for your clients, because if you're not getting out of bed, we know what happens. And we've seen that, especially nowadays with mental health and everything that's going with that. Talk about your podcast, because you've had some incredible guests. I thought I had a good show. Man, yours is great. What's the name of it?
It's Inspiration Contagion, and we focus on bringing amazing people who are change makers. They're doing good in the world. They are committed to a legacy that's impactful. And we want them to share their stories, and not just their stories about how amazing they are, but their stories of challenge and struggle and what they did to overcome those, how they define inspiration, how they stay inspired, how they build a community that supports their vision and mission, and also the revenue blunders that they face so that they can help other people realize, hey, they're not perfect either. They could be Lex Gillette, who's an Olympian, all these famous people that are incredible, and yet they're human. And here's the thing, we heal in circles. And so you might think you're alone, you're not. And so Inspiration Contagion is to remind you that there are other visionaries, there are other people that might be a few steps ahead of you, or 100 steps ahead of you, or behind you, and they have equal amount of challenge, but also equal amounts of success because they are continuing to go up and get out of bed and figure out the solutions to that pain point.
How much as a host have you learned over the years doing your podcast?
Whew. Well, so my podcast started originally for getting case studies for my book series. And so the second book in that series that I'm working on is going to have case studies around leadership. And then also it kind of was to keep me inspired. And so now I've learned that I want to bring guests on that light me up, that inspire me, that keep me excited as a host, because you kind of, after you've done this for especially 7 years, you get to this point of like, do I want to keep doing this? It's a lot of work and it's a labor of love. But I learned so much from all of our guests. I learned ways to reframe things that we're doing, ideas for new tools and solutions. We build strategic partners through our podcast. Sometimes we get clients from our podcast. But more than ever, what I love most is when you get just random comments from people who are listeners about a light bulb that went off or a massive solution or a breakthrough that they had. And that's what keeps me going, is the fact that we are creating inspiration around the world. And then last year we won top 30 most inspiring podcasts internationally, and it was not paid media. And I was just like pinching myself, like, how did this happen? So that was also really cool.
Congratulations, well deserved, because you are inspirational. I'm going to do something for you, audience, because I've been on her podcast and I've seen some of her podcasts. If you reach out and mention the podcast to Holly, we'll get her contact information here. I'm going to send you her book for free. A bonus will be if you find my podcast with Holly and mention something in the podcast, I'm going to send you $20. How about that? Because sometimes reward is a great celebration to impact and inspiration. And I love rewarding for that and reward could be just the story itself, which you have. So that leads to a very tough question, because I get asked this as a host. What's one of your favorite stories in your podcast?
Oh man. So I'm a rock climber in my personal life, and it's a one of the loves of my life, and it will be a love of my life forever. And with a fractured foot right now, boy, Steve, it's a struggle bus right now. I like look at rock and I'm like, I just want to touch this rock and pretend I'm climbing it. I had Hazel Findlay on my podcast, and Hazel Findlay, for those of you are not rock climbers, or you are and you've never heard of her, she is a mother. She has a business, and she helps people overcome fear of falling, fear of injury, a lot of mental things that, if you think about it, work for business owners and not just rock climbers. And she's also a badass trad climber. So if you don't know anything about climbing, this means kind of like you're free soloing, but you're placing your own gear on rock, and you're hoping that you did a good job placing it, because if you fall on that gear, that's what's keeping you from hitting the ground and dying. And so she has broken through so many glass ceilings and just hit so many achievements. But the conversation that we had, that was this massive breakthrough moment for me, because I asked how people define peak performance and how they arrived at that. And she said, I want to answer that a very different way. And I said, great, sounds good. She said, Holly, we have peak form and we have peak performance. And I'm sure you heard me earlier say that. And that's because our peak form is how we wake up each day and how we are. So, like, if you have an injury, your peak form is going to be lower. If you have like financial struggles, your peak form is going to be lower. So, our peak performance is influenced directly by our peak form physically, emotionally, spiritually, and just the external influences on us. So, the peak form of the world today, with all of the craziness that's going on, is lower than it usually is, because there's a lot of economic challenges and a lot of duality, and people kind of like at odds with each other. And so understanding the difference between peak form and peak performance was really powerful. And then she had this really beautiful analogy of, what if you could just show up and do the thing, like climbing in this instance, from the pure stance of the joy and happiness and content of it, not how people are perceiving you, not, sending the route. And that's such a beautiful metaphor for what we do as change makers. Like, what if we could just show up and do the thing that we're gifted to do for the pure joy of it, and then show up and serve people from just the joy that we have this gift, and we get to share it with people to help them get out of pain and suffering, and get closer to what they want, so that they can also be light warriors and change makers in the world. And so that conversation was incredibly powerful.
Yeah, you just gave our audience something really, and me too, I wrote that down, because I think sports and business is a bridge. And peak form in business, you wake up, you're tired, you didn't sleep, your form's not good. Well, guess what? Your performance may not be as good. I love the analogy, and thank you for sharing that incredible story. That leads to hobbies. You're an entrepreneur, getting away from that business. You rock climb. Tell us why you rock climb, how important this hobby is for you.
Oh my goodness. I could talk about this all day. It lights me up, Steve.
I figured.
Rock climbing is almost like an addiction for me, because I am that passionate about it. And it took me, I think, 5 or 6 years getting into the sport to understand why it was so powerful for me, and like why it's such a great metaphor for business. So in business, we plant seeds and we water the seeds, we give sun to the seeds, and it takes sometimes a long time for us to see the impact of that. And sometimes we don't ever hear, because there are lurkers that don't really tell us like how we're doing. It's amazing to me. People are like, oh, I saw that on LinkedIn, but I never hear from them. I don't know that like that actually has been a thing, but they've been a fan for 20 years or something. Cool. Well, in rock climbing, you have some immediate gratification. So let's say I get on a really hard route and I do one move, like that is satisfying. Or I send my first 512, which for folks who don't know what climbing is, vertical wall starts at 5.5, goes up to like 5.15. So these achievements give you just so much immediate gratification. And then there's a community around this, and it's a sport where there can be competition, but really rock climbers are just stoked for you to achieve your goals. So it's about you. So you're on the wall kind of alone. And then, oh my goodness, my TED talk is about fear. I use my fear method every time I get on the wall, because fear doesn't go away. Like, you're just managing it, you're navigating it, you create a different relationship. And with lead climbing, which I do, and I'm starting to get into trad climbing, you are on the spicy end of the rope, is what we call it. And so you're the rope gunner. The rope is tied into your harness. So until you place gear and protection, if you fall, you are in the death zone or the injury zone. And so navigating and trusting yourself, having the confidence in your ability and knowing what you can do for risk mitigation, what you can do based on your ability, and then just being super calm and dialed into, and you commit to that. Like there's a book, Rock Warrior Way. You do risk mitigation, and then you execute and commit. You just commit to it, and then the whole time you're just executing and you dial into that. And it's such a beautiful metaphor for how we should operate in business. Like there is fear of falling, it's fear of failure. There is fear of injury, it's fear of financial loss. And then there is this like fear factor of, do I have the confidence and trust and permission to do this thing
Yeah.
and send this route, launch this course, launch this thing, start my business, exit my business, right? And so to me, that's why I do rock climbing. And it's also something I'm incredibly passionate about sharing with others because it creates trust, empowerment, and a better way of working with fear.
Another way to impact people too, and it gets you away from your business. It sounds like you're so intense, you probably don't think about that client that called yesterday or that email. No, it's completely out of here. And that's the cool thing that I love about you, is that hobby is building your business indirectly by making you a better person. And you brought my fear up. I'm not good with heights. So when you start talking about that, my fear bubbled up a little bit. I'm managing right now, which is great. But, everybody, it doesn't have to be rock climbing. That's the key. Whatever hobby that just walks you away from the business for a certain period of time. Maybe it's a vacation, whatever that looks like. We're coming close to the end here. What's a piece of advice you'd give somebody to find that purpose and build that legacy?
Ooh. When you're trying to find your purpose and legacy, if you're completely lost, we have a guide for that too, but you can ask specific questions. So go to people around you and ask them what they believe your superpower gift is. Ask them, like you asked me before we started, what's one word that people in your inner circle would describe you as, right? And that's probably pretty close to what your gift should be and what it is, right? It's already there. We just have to uncover it and bring it to the surface, what that purpose is. And then also ask yourself, do some reflection, do some visualization, do some journaling, whatever that looks like for you. What do you want to be remembered for when you die, when you're not here anymore? What do you want your children, your grandchildren, your community, the people, your chosen family to remember you for? And those questions, those reflections, those insights from those around you will get you very close to your purpose. And you'll continue to dial that in. And then my other bit of advice is as you go through time, do annual check-ins with yourself, not just setting goals for the next year, but what on your
Hmm.
bucket list that's related to your purpose do you want to achieve? How much did you check off from this past year? Is your purpose still aligned? Are you living according to your purpose? Like check your calendar. If your purpose is serving children in, non-accessible areas, but you're not using but 1% of your calendar time to address that, your purpose is missing. And maybe sure you're building stepping stones to do that, but try to do fact checking to make sure you're living your life aligned to your purpose once you discover it.
It's a business. Your purpose is a business. That's what you're talking about. Taking action. You taking action towards your purpose. Find it, take action, build a legacy. And you can reach out to Holly audience. We'll get her contact info so you can get more questions, because this is powerful. It will grow a business. It will grow your revenue. And of course, grow your network, which are all important in the business. Let's end with a fun question I like to ask the guests. So I'm going to come out where you live. You're going to pick your favorite restaurant. So think what that is. You're going to invite 3 people to the restaurant, including me. People that have been the most influential in your life, inspiring to you, whether dead or alive. The second part's for me and for the guests a little bit too. I'm a foodie. I want you to order food for the table. What would that be?
Oh, no pressure, Steve. No pressure.
None whatsoever.
I have several favorites, but I'll choose Bita Manda. It's a Laotian restaurant with some blended Asian dishes, and it's built in the way that it feels like you're getting food delivered from your grandmother's kitchen, right? So it's like this home vibe, right? And what I would order for the table, they have these lettuce cups that are amazing. Just they're so good. Like they're crispy, they're perfectly textured. Everybody like you cannot not love them. If you don't, I don't know that we can be friends. They're delicious. So several of those, enough for everybody to have some of those because they're addictive. They have this Laotian wedding spring soup that's amazing. That'd be hard to share, so we'd have to like see if they would do it in cups so that people could taste that. They also have this pork belly soup that is one of my all-time favorites. And then they also have some other appetizers that, depending on because their menu changes throughout the seasons and throughout the year. And depending on who is at the table, I'm actually really good at ordering food for the table, Steve. So
There you
I
go.
would choose based on who's there what we would be ordering because some people might be vegetarian or whatever. But they have something that will serve every single person there and give you a
Beautiful.
nice fusion and blend of food.
And who would we invite, or would you invite? Not we.
Ooh, Gabby Bernstein. She's an amazing spiritual advisor. Love her to death. Hal Elrod. I love his book on your morning routine and some of his other books. He's just incredible guy. Amazing. My mother, because I would not be here or gifted in the gifts that I have without her, and she's one of my best friends, and I call her Yoda when I need advice. My best friend Martina, she's an amazing superstar, a mother. She works in university, head in corporate America, super driven, super passionate, gives back to the community in powerful ways. She's from Bulgaria and she's just crushing it in the US. Um, I would also invite my mentor, John, who's in the climbing community. He's taught me everything I know with AAC, and there's a list of more people, but those are the ones that come to the top of mind.
What a table. What's your mom's name?
Heather Surratt.
Heather, shout out to you. You're a great mother because you have an incredible daughter. And thank you for bringing incredibleness to this show and taking the time being an incredible guest. How can people reach out to you?
Oh, great question. So we are very active on LinkedIn, Holly J. Jackson on LinkedIn. Also, Holly at changemakerimpact.co, not com, co. And of course, our website is changemakerimpact.co.
And we'll have all that information on the show notes. Reach out to me. Remember, if you reach out to me or her and mention the podcast, going to send you the book. If you mention something from our podcast on her show that you did, you got to mention something. She's got to make sure it was said. I'm going to send you $20. Go out and get a coffee. I think they're $20 now. Whatever their cost of coffee is, I make my own, so it doesn't matter. But thanks again, Holly. And audience, share this out. She talked about impact and inspiration for about 20 minutes. If you know somebody down and out, and she had mentioned it earlier, share the podcast because I believe these are gifts of inspiration and impact. Not for everybody, but that one person go, hey, you got to listen to Holly. I listened to her for 10, 15 minutes. She's got some great tips or it's just motivated me. And then subscribe. And same thing with inspiring content. What's your podcast name again? I'm going to blow it.
Inspiration Contagion.
Inspiration Contagion. Said it right. Subscribe there. Take those podcasts. Take Haley, she mentioned, and share it with other people. Let's change the world one show at a time. With that being said, me and Holly want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thanks, Steve.